So looting is running rampant. It's a big problem in America. Let's talk about looting. Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. This is not what you think it's going to be. Check it out. Well, the country is still in flames. The words of the day seem to be looting and rioting. I want to take these one at a time. I'm going to start with rioting. I am not seeing homes being destroyed. I'm not seeing people being targeted. Yesterday was the anniversary of the 1921 actual riot in Greenwood, Missouri. Oklahoma. The Tulsa Race Massacre is what it was referred to back at the time. Greenwood was a suburb of Tulsa that had over 100,000 people living in it. It was an entirely African-American community. They referred to it as the Black Wall Street. It was a very, very wealthy place. Black people came from all over America to live there, to do business there. The area Greenwood had, in addition to 100,000 people, had luxury shops, 21 restaurants, 30 grocery stores, a hospital, a savings and loan, a post office, 3 hotels. This was all owned and operated and run by African Americans. Jewelry and clothing stores, 2 movie theaters, a library, pool halls, a bus and cab service, a nationally recognized school system, 6 private airplanes, their own airport, 2 black newspapers. And on May 31st, yesterday, white people actually rioted in Greenwood. And by rioted, I'm talking about killing people and burning their houses down. At the time of the riot, there were 15 well-known black African-American physicians. Dr. A.C. Jackson, who lived in Greenwood, was said by the founders, the Mayo brothers, the founders of the Mayo Clinic, as the finest surgeon in America. He walked out of his house with his hands up as the white crowd was approaching, and they shot him dead. The massacre began. It lasted for several days, across today as well, when white mobs descended on Greenwood, burning houses. Now, what I'm seeing is more like the Boston Tea Party out there, where in 1773, this country was birthed in an act of anti-corporate vandalism, anti-looting, and I'll get to that in a minute. But burning houses and shooting black people. Some people were burned alive. 40 square blocks were burned to the ground. 10,000 people were left homeless. 300 black people were officially dead, but just a few months ago, or maybe earlier in the year, the local city officials, they think they've discovered a mass grave. Black bodies were being thrown in the river there to be disposed of, but apparently hundreds were buried in mass graves. And we probably, in the next year or two, as they start unearthing these, will get some better sense of the total number of people who were murdered by white mobs in the riot in Greenwood on that day. White mobs looting homes of black people pulled out finely carved furniture, pianos, mink and leopard coats. Before setting the houses on fire, there were reports that hundreds of bodies were thrown into the Arkansas River and or buried in mass graves. Now that's a riot, and I'm not seeing riots. I'm seeing a rebellion. I'm seeing an uprising. I'm seeing people rising up and saying, no, we're sick and tired of it. And now you've got, Trump going, this morning he went off, he was on a conference call with with mayors all around and governors around the country. And he said, you have to dominate. If you don't dominate, you're wasting your time. They're going to run over you. They're going to make you look like a bunch of jerks. You have to dominate. And he called these mayors fools. That was Trump this morning. Joe Biden yesterday met with black leaders at a local church in Delaware. Now that's leadership. And he's doing a conference call this morning with mayors and governors all over the country. But the simple fact of the matter is that looting is real. Looting is happening on a widespread basis, and looting has to stop. I mean, looting is the word of the day, right? We've got a major problem with looting in America. In 1981, when Ronald Reagan ended the New Deal era, crushed labor unions, and massively cut the top personal and corporate tax rate, he kicked off the most massive and widespread looting of America since the 1920s. Working people from all across the country have had $7 trillion of their wealth looted by the top 1% in just the past 2 decades, reducing many of them from middle class to the working poor. Small and medium-sized businesses, ever since Reagan in 1983 stopped enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act, have seen their companies looted by giant monopolies and predatory banksters like Mitt Romney. Millions of homeowners across America have had their homes looted by thugs like Steve Mnuchin, California's foreclosure king, and Wall Street banksters like Jamie Dimon, a practice that's again exploding as people are losing their jobs. Hungry people across America have had their food supplies looted by defense contractors whose ever-increasing chunk of federal spending has come at the expense of food stamps and other agricultural supports for hungry people. Billionaires in the Trump crime family looted the U.S. Treasury, your money and mine, to the tune of $1.5 trillion in 2017, and then, just to add insult to injury, in the last 6 months, have looted the last 3 months, have looted another $2 trillion out of the money that was appropriated to help victims of COVID-19 victims. Betsy DeVos is looting our schools, our public schools, to give money to her buddies in the for-profit and religious education industries. George W. Bush looted trillions out of Medicare when he partially privatized the program in 2005 with the so-called Medicare Advantage, which is now throwing the Medicare program system into crisis. Bush and his fellow thugs also looted the post office, when taking $5 billion a year from them for a decade to stop them from converting their fleet of vehicles to electric and hydrogen power and set the U.S. Postal Service up for sale to FedEx. Students across the country have lost $1.7 trillion to banksters, looting them, and empowered by Bush's 2005 bankruptcy reform legislation that's going to force some of them into debt until the day they die. Sick people in America have been looted to the tune of trillions of dollars a year by giant insurance companies and massive for-profit hospital systems that pay their executives millions, and in the case of United Healthcare, paid their CEO over $1 billion. African Americans and Hispanics have been looted of trillions in reduced pay by racist employers and giant corporations, while their safety, their lives, and their peace of mind have been looted by racist police. Asylum seekers and immigrants have had their lives and children looted from them by brutal thugs like Stephen Miller and Donald Trump. Our air and water and the survival of our planet have been looted by giant fossil fuel companies and the billionaires who own them, leading to mass migrations and millions of deaths every year. Local media, cable systems, small internet service providers have been looted by giant corporate thugs to the point where news has become infotainment. Americans have become dumbed down. The average American family now pays more than twice, and in some cases more than 10 times, as much for internet and cable TV services and cell phone services as people in every other developed country. Our food supply has been looted by giant corporations that have destroyed family farms, poisoned rural communities with their so-called factory farms, oceans of pig and cow waste, and provoked an epidemic of obesity, diabetes, and heart disease by looting a once healthy food supply and replacing it with crap food. I'm telling you, it's time for the looting to stop in America.